Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Don Bowman. My company is Agilicus. We make really fantastic zero trust products for critical infrastructure, including the water industry. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges to remote operations that we've seen from VPNs. It's sort of the state of the art for how you do remote access site to site, but it's starting to fall apart a little bit as more and more things need some internet connectivity in formerly air-gapped sites, as more and more companies support more and more different companies in the end. You can't have them all installed, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about how to simplify that and make it more secure, so faster, better, cheaper progress for employees and partners. So my agenda today, feel free to ask questions in the chat as I go, and feel free to follow up after the webinar, but I'm going to talk about the VPN as a method of providing remote support, remote operations, remote management. And sometimes this is a person to a system, sometimes it's system to a system, sometimes it's site to site, but there's pros and cons to it. And we're going to talk about zero trust as an alternative, which is obviously got a lot of motion behind it right now as a way of reducing risk, reducing the blast radius, taking things into a modern world of authentication, single sign-on, multi-factor for task-based workers who need a single thing to do, when on the far end of it, you have something that's just far from that, like a PLC or an HMI that is just designed for industrial use. And we'll talk about how to gasket that modern world, that single sign-on, into that sort of 20-year-old device running Windows CE that really shouldn't have an internet connectivity anymore. But suddenly, a wild poll. This is semi-anonymous. This is really just to get the people engaged, vote early, vote often. But at the beginning of this year, a lot of people were surprised. There was all of a sudden 3 uncorrelated emergency directives from CISA, and they were relating to different VPNs. And effectively, they said, get this VPN gone from thy network and get it patched. And some of them were kind of hard to patch. You couldn't just apply the new software update because it was a rootkit and it stayed on the device. And a lot of people either thought, hey, this doesn't apply to me. And then something that really kind of woke me up was last week, the week before, we had a big issue with Palo Alto's next generation firewall. And a lot of people might have said, it's okay, I don't run that device. But then it turned out it was actually embedded in another Siemens device and of the Ape Connect, and it was a very rugged device, and it might have been in a lot of networks, and nobody really knows. So you can have these things embedded into something else. A lot of people have strategies for security that they don't really stand muster when they're inspected, and they have these sort of backdoors in the network. They have a little router with a wireless antenna, and it's got an Ethernet jack and a shared account, and nobody talks about it, or TeamViewer, and as a consequence, who knows? So there's our results. Not a lot of people voted, but that's fine. Some people signed up for this webinar. Thank you very much. Talk about the needs. So when we talk about remote operations, remote support, one of the challenges is you're talking about an environment that is fundamentally different. You're not talking about a 6-month-old laptop running the latest operating system that's probably patched that a user is struggling to print from, and there's a type of tool for that. You're talking about a wide variety of low volume products, industrial control systems that have very long lifespans, 10, 15, 20 years. And over that time, they've been approximating their IT counterparts. You start to see, there's an embedded Windows machine inside this, and it's running Windows XP, and nobody really knows. But you see it's very pervasive in the HVAC system, in your building management system facilities, building access, smart door locks, but also in those HMIs, those human machine interfaces you see on the manufacturing floor, you see in front of the water treatment plant, you see on the pedestals, and we're seeing them hacked systematically. There's every day goes by, there's a new directive about that, and you see the little video from like Muleshoe, Texas, where a state-sponsored actor was able to log in and change some settings. That was only a few weeks ago. And we're seeing a lot more constituents in the ecosystem. So 20 years ago, a complete air gap, and people had to show up on site and have a badge and sort of know each other. Today, things are getting more and more complex. They're getting more and more specialized. As a consequence, the skill set's getting rarer and rarer, and it's nearly certainly remote. When you talk about, updating the firmware on your PLC, not as many sites have the software and skill set on site to do that, but it's actually more frequent. You're trying to get more and more efficiency out of the system, that pump, the startup time, the parameters. You're starting to see manufacturing with joint ventures, inventory at one site versus another. In the water treatment space, you see, regulatory, we're sending data to the cloud, predictive analytics. Every one of these has a different scope, risk, and controls. And as a consequence, an all on or all off remote access solution like a VPN becomes inappropriate. The VPN it's been around a long time. We used to call it dial-up networking. One of my first jobs was at Hewlett Packard, and you dialed into when you wanted to be remote, and there was a phone number and a certain amount of trust in the PSTN for that. And I guess, maybe people believed that was a worthwhile thing to trust or not, but you kind of trusted it. We didn't have internet to that location. The VPN is really a long Ethernet cable. It really is like having a cable from where you are to your other side. And it's really good for people that need access to everything. So if you've got that one IT person that's going to be zipping around and talking to every device, it's kind of a good thing. It's all or nothing. It's on or off. And it really evolved from that dial-up concept. Instead of me VPNing there with a dial-up modem and my roommates not being able to pick up the phone and see what was on movies that night, it now is over internet. But it's really the same thing. It's a link from me to there. And it really also evolved around the singular company principle. Everybody works for the company. The VPN is everything, and everybody's the same user on it. I know you can have some ACLs on it and control a little bit, but it's really complicated to put rules on in a subnet of who can do what. It really is just, you can do everything once it's connected. So what do people like about the VPN? Well, it just works. It's like being there. No additional steps. I can just leave it running forever. The transport's encrypted. I don't have to worry about my crumbing application leaking information. I trust this vendor. Nobody ever got fired for buying X, whatever X is. Think about the vendors that support you. You dictate, okay, we use Cisco AnyConnect version X.Y and blah, blah, blah. They support 30 companies, and they can't install everybody's VPN on their laptop. And even if they could, they would have an overlapping IP space because you all run NAT. And you might find that customer 1 and customer 2 disagree about what IP address they have on site and disagree with what I have, and I have to resubnet my machine every time I connect from one customer to another. Another one a lot of people don't recognize is they say phrases like, my video calls aren't as good when the VPN is up. The reason for that is about split horizon. So there's two ways to run a VPN. There's three. You can just get rid of it. Which is what I'm espousing. But there's two other ways. The first is called split horizon. You kind of cherry pick and you say some traffic goes into the VPN and some doesn't. Security professionals don't like this because you can leak information. If you make a mistake, you're offering something that should only go to your company into some attacker somewhere. And they say, no, we're going to use a full tunnel, full route. Everything goes into my network and then back out. My document leakage protection, my next-gen firewall, everything's good. The problem there is the upstream of your company becomes the downstream of each user. And when you have 10 users on, it gets divided by 10. We have 100 users on, it's divided by 100. You do that big group call at the end of the year to congratulate everyone on their hard work, and nothing works. Nobody can see anybody. But they also say phrases like, I can't print from home. I want to use a tablet. Do you have a VPN client available for it? I can't install all your software. And then eventually you start to see, I follow some of the Reddits I follow. They go down this weird path about my customers implementing multi-factor. How do I share it so everybody on my team's help desk can be able to log in? Well, you're not supposed to be able to share it. It's supposed to be hard. And they start saying, well, force the customer to use SMS and use an SMS reflector, and then everybody gets it. You're missing the point. You are not supposed to be doing that. So with a system like ours, every user uses their existing single sign-on, their identity provider, Azure, Google, etc., Okta, and every one of those users uses their own multi-factor. You don't have to share it, but the VPN kind of pushes you down that path because it usually is a different piece of equipment. It's not integrated to your system. The ugly. So think about this. You're connecting their risk to your risk. It sounds like I'm trying to be a little bit scary, but a couple of years ago, there was the Colonial Pipeline issue. A bad VPN and a contractor inadvertently took down the gasoline supply of a G8 country on the East Coast. Wars get started over this, right? Like this is the kind of thing where, Matthew Broderick in War Games, if somebody had started a rumor that that was the Ruskies coming, it starts wars. You're importing their business risk to yours, etc. These emergency directives on the specific VPNs, these VPN vendors, they haven't made mistakes. They're not bad companies that are atrocious security posture. They've disclosed them reliably and consistently. The downside is it has access to literally everything. The reason I was freaked out about the Palo Alto Next Gen one is it's an inspecting firewall. What that means is it acts as a conditional certificate authority. You put its root cert in all of your devices so it can inspect your outbound traffic. Suddenly, an unauthenticated user has root access on the device. It's not your network that you got to worry about. They can actually man in the middle every one of the endpoints on your network, and they have for some time. And that means it's not just your local stuff that was at risk, but those users using their cloud accounts, their SaaS accounts, all those tokens are somebody else. All your backups are somewhere else. The VPN and the firewall together, they hold a very trusted position. And I think that paradigm is behind us now. We need to start thinking about microsegmentation, blast radius, smaller zones. So when something gets breached, and I said when, not if, you can control how far it gets. You can see it. You've got some time. So the ugly part about the VPN is it really is an all or nothing, infinite trust or zero trust. Once it's up, there's really no audit trail. It's the VPN came up. You don't know who did what through it. Don't panic. Turns out I got some answers for this. So first, we sort of interview the users and say, what do you view as nirvana, other than the band? For task-based workers, they say very simple things. Look, all this security stuff gets in my way. I just got a single task to get done. I need to check how much chlorine is in that hopper right now. And for that, I need to access that HMI. And it's on the other side of town. I don't want to get in my truck and drive there. I want to take my kids for the weekend away. So just get out of my way and get my job done. When there's a vendor supporting you and they're billing you by the hour and you've been grumbling about the amount you're spending, they just want to get their job done. They want to do it from where they are, the network that they're on, the location of their choice, network of their choice, and the device of their choice. They don't want you to dictate it has to be this machine with this sort of thing. They're like, look, this is what I got with me. It's in my pocket. I pulled over to the side of the road. I've pulled it out. That's what I got. Let's use it. And they don't want another account. They do not want the vendor-company account. They want their own account. And you want that too. So what you don't want is, imagine you create a shared account for one of your suppliers, Siemens or Rockwell or something. Do you know how many people work for Siemens? Somebody got fired for bad reason there this morning, and you've got a shared account with them. This crazy talk. You really want, when that person got fired by Siemens, Siemens took them out of their identity provider right away. You want to just trust that. You own the authorization layer, what they're allowed to do. Let them own who the person is. So I rephrase this problem as any user, any application, any device, any network, anytime, they should get their job done. It doesn't mean a reduction in security. I think this is non-zero sum. I think that we can make it more secure and more simple at the same time, which means that everybody wins. It's not a trade-off where, increase security, decrease user satisfaction. If everything just looked like a website and a user could use it on their tablet and sign in the way they're used to, they would be happier, but also you've got more visibility, more granularity, more control. So we talk about zero trust. Zero trust is an example of something that can be very, very large and daunting. And there's a lot of standards and talk and this and that about it. And I'm here to tell you that it's got a very simple principle behind it. There's three things you need to solve. If you solve them, you have zero trust. The first one's the who problem. Who are you? Identity. Who is this actor? This either a person or a system. Every person has an individually known and authenticated identity. And you see this online as a consumer. Sign in with Google, sign in with Microsoft. That's what they're talking about. If you go to your GitHub account and you sign in with your Gmail account like I do, you don't have another username and password. That's the who problem. They've identified me, and I'm a singular me across many systems, which means audit trails are nice, and it's nice for me because I don't have to remember a bunch of passwords. The analogy I use for passwords is there's a great song called Wonderwall. What's the story, morning glory? It's now going through your head. You're welcome. But there's only 88 words in the song Wonderwall. But the average person has 101 passwords. Do you think they're keeping unique, strong passwords and rotating them for all of them? Well, first of all, rotation is controversial. The NIST standards suggest that you don't rotate passwords anymore. You have a strong password and you keep it. But you know those people are writing them down. Every company they work with and every system, it's got some different rules. It's got to be 8 characters. No, it has to be 9. It has to have a magic character. It can't have a space, etc. Just federate your identity, single sign-on, and that's really where we can come in, is federating, is allowing you to have the who be across multiple companies. Don at Agilicus, me at my company should be able to equally sign in. The authorization problem, the what problem, this is what are you allowed to do? You should allow other people to attest to who, but you need to own what. Don is allowed to have read-only access to HMI 3 after 5 p.m. on Mondays. Done. That's my authorization role. It can be GeoIP based. Don has to be in certain countries or whatever. But it really comes down to, the more fine-grained you make that, this is what your business is. What are you allowed to do? Can you reboot it? Can you just see it? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you see this system? And then the last part is the how. How do I get you there? So that's the who, the what, the how. Once you have that, you have zero trust. That's all it is. And there's a lot of different things you can do in implementation, and you get hung up in client certificates and mutual TLS and this and that. But on the basis of access, the VPN was, once I know who you are, you have access to everything with no fine-grained authorization. Zero trust is that resource, that person can do this thing, singular tuple of stuff, zero trust. So from a high-level user view, I'm going to give you a short demo in a second, and you can all gasp at the sheer beauty of it, I suppose. But here, the high-level user view is, for the most part, there's no software to install. It's all web-based. They can use any device, my tablet, my phone, my laptop. There's no software. It's up to you organizationally to decide what your BYOD strategies are. But when you start talking about your vendors supporting you, you have not a lot of control in that area. They sign in with their existing company login. They sign in with their user at partner domain and that existing password and so on. You can control multi-factor. So if you're worried that some of your partners haven't got that memo yet, or they do the SMS reflector because they think it's cool, you can force WebAuthn, YubiKey, TOTP, all the cool acronyms in such a way that the end user doesn't bitch at you. And it's really ideal for narrow task-based workers. Coming back to, I'm not suggesting the VPN needs to die a violent death. It's got a use case for site to site. It's got a use case for, certain IT folk, but it really is a terrible solution for those narrow task-based workers who've been kind of forced on them. That person who works from home and just checks the water levels in something, that person that supports your system, they're commissioning a new HMI and PLC and they need to reprogram it constantly, and it's offline, that person's kind of terrible for. There's no layer 3 routes, there's no subnets, there's no worry about overlapping IPs, and as a consequence, they can't get anywhere else in your network because there's no IP, they can't route to it. And it's all outbound traffic, so it's much easier to do the firewalling at your site. You have your typical site firewall, which is allow out, deny in. You can pinhole it down to a single IP. It's inspectable, you can, etc. So you can meet all your criteria very quickly. I'm going to show you a short demo. Because human beings make mistakes, I've recorded the demo in advance. It's still me. I did it like a couple days ago. It's fresh. It's not some long demo. It's only a minute or so, but I'm going to talk over it as we go. And it should start sharing to you. So from a sign-in experience, think about this page having whoever you choose to accept credentials from. Google and Microsoft are the two big with Workplace and Azure and Office 365, but there could be others. Here I'm also using multi-factor. It's just showing off screen, but I use the push notification to my device, my passkey on my Pixel. And then here, just immediately the user is able to log into a web-based HMI. And this particular user has read-write access. I was able to change the temperature there. We can show logging into VT SCADA. This one has an application password in it, so the user still has to log into that of its own accord. This is a demo of a water treatment plant. Not everything's web-based, of course. So we're going to get in a second to show things that are more desktop-based. So this will show directly in the browser. Boom, there you have a remote desktop right in the browser, instantaneous. VNC is really common in the industrial world. It's really simple. It doesn't log the user out locally. Everybody can see what everybody's doing. It supports read-only. It can also do a native launch. So we can launch native applications like Rockwell Studio or a native VNC browser. We can do Microsoft Remote Desktop and shares. Anything you want. The integration point was that single sign-on of the user. There's me launching VNC as a fat client, and it just the browser integration to the desktop causes it to launch. So you kind of get the idea there. It's all started with that. I signed in as me at my normal company. I saw the same HTML. I would always see my logo, my brand. So much stronger for spear phishing protection when you're not teaching people that you can use a different password for every company you support. You can use a different password for every system. And what are they supposed to do? They receive an email saying a system they use twice a year needs their password reset. Of course, they're going to believe it. When you get everything into that, it's all like signing into Office 365. They just get in that headspace that anything weird, they don't click on it. They're part of the solution instead of the part of the problem. There's no more shared accounts. That HR churn at your partner isn't your problem. They're going to take them out of their own identity provider. They may not have told you, but at least they can no longer attest who they are. That overbroad access is gone. The user is only able to do the activities they're allowed to, where they're allowed to from, when, etc. There's a full audit trail. The amount of audit information that systems like ours generate, you have every file that was read off a share, every individual transaction on a web, who's clicked where in the VNC. Multi-factor authentication, I was able to enforce it in our system after the identity flow, which means that I can federate and allow somebody in with their own Office 365 or Azure tenant, even if they haven't turned conditional access on, I can force it. I can force it more frequently or less frequently. I can force the methods, etc. Getting rid of that VPN means the only resource the user can get to is the one I've allowed, and only that network protocol. There's no layer 3 and no layer 4. They can't ping it. They can't do an nmap. It doesn't show up in the routing table on their machine. It's injected in the network stack of the specific application that the user is using. And the other thing is there's no shared software and licenses here, so you don't have to worry about telling your partners to install something and worrying that because I dictated what they installed, if that has malware in supply chain, that I might be somehow liable for taking down their company or something of that nature. You see all those scammer type YouTube videos where the guy reverses the ConnectWise backwards down them, or the AnyDesk, and then he takes all their files. You can't do that with a system like this. It's just not possible. A lot of people are thinking, well, okay, zero trust, I've read about it online. That's a project for the next couple of years. It's going to have at least one leap year in it. I'm here to say no. I mean, you can get this done in the duration of this webinar. You can get that one HMI up. Our typical customer implementation is measured in hours. There's no integration to do to your identity systems because they already support this protocol, OpenID Connect. We have a shared multi-tenant, what's called an issuer. So you just click and say, I want to use Microsoft as a login. You can still have your own. You can do your own Azure application registration, have your own conditional access. The vast majority of our customers use the shared multi-tenant one. And the same for Google, the same for Okta. And that just immediately allows that MSP that supports you or you to support your customer. That outbound only network thing means it works behind Starlink and network address translation and cellular and satellite and things. It works behind very old firewalls that everybody's like, oh my God, the plant firewall, you can't be allowing stuff through that. There's no port forwarding allowed. I'm not asking for any port forwarding. We're going to make a single outbound connection on port 443 to HTTPS, and everybody be happy with that. That very precise authorization, again, there's no real work to be done here. You just have to go into our system and say, HMI, read only, dawn, these hours, click. You're not really doing a ton of work here because there's no change to the applications. You're not having to go into SAP and change its configuration and worry you've broken production. It's something in the network that sits in the middle. It's seamless access, no VPN. Everything behaves as if it was a publicly addressable website, and there's no changes on the site. It's really quick to implement. So my call to arms here, obviously, I have a product and a service that I would love to get feedback on, to get engaged with you folks. My call to arms, coming back to those CISA emergency directives, we're facing some tough sledding there. I think there's an architectural change we need to make so that instead of having one bastion box that's infinitely trusted and spending all our time patching it like mad, whatever you call that, the jump box, the DMZ, the firewall, the VPN, or all of those things, you got to be working on reducing the blast radius so that you've got a set of things and zones and people that are together. So one HMI, one user, click. If something goes wrong, you'll know what they got. Recognizing that the VPN has an underserved demographic. Things are getting smarter, more specialized, and more online. You're not going to fight this. You're not going to be able to maintain something. Like John Deere's done it to farmers. You think about, you can't buy a John Deere tractor today unless it's connected to them and they can control how you update it. You're certainly not going to be able to do it very much longer with your building management system, your HVAC, your thermostats. People want energy efficiency, people want SaaS, they want this, they want that. The security gets more important, your ability to restrict where it goes becomes smaller, lateral traversal becomes more costly. You're going to have to deal with something like zero trust. Understanding that the VPN is not an appropriate solution for everybody. This is part of the problem is IT administrators, you're often like, what are they complaining about? This is totally fine for me. It's not fine for them. That's not what they need. They need something different. They need to be able to pull over to the side of a road and take a tablet out of a bag and click 3 times and be in the HMI and click stop and then go on their way. They don't want to have the company issued Windows laptop with them and then work for 5 companies and have 5 laptops in their bag. They don't want to have to change their IP addresses locally because they're connecting to a PLC that's also on 10.0.0.1 as an IP. They want to be able to work on 2 customers at the same time that both have a PLC on 10.0.0.1. We can do that. It's a very popular feature as a system integrator to be able to work on 2 sites simultaneously when they have the same IPs locally. That's how all plants are designed, by the way. They all start IP address 10.0.0.1 and work upwards. There's no calibration that everybody gets together and says, my plant is going to use these IPs. It's not like that. Understand that single sign-on factor is really important for everybody you work with. Sometimes I hear people, okay, my key users are using that. I'm like, no, your key users are everybody with a pulse. No. It's only my team. It's not my contractors. That's their problem. Well, no, that's your problem. If they get spearfished, it's their problem. No, that's your problem. So we can fix that. And I'd love to talk with you guys. So, lots of ways to get a hold of the company. You can email me, don@agilicus.com. You can give me a call. My calendar, you can go to our website and click on book a meeting. You'll get somebody here. I suppose smoke signals might work, but it's not the quickest for me. We're going to reach out to you after the webinar, obviously. I'd love if you took that call and just said, hey, I was looking to get this information. Was I right? Was I wrong? Did I not supply it? What's the topic you think I should cover in more detail next time? But this works. We're covering something like 100 water treatment plants today, and those folks have got their job done in a hurry and moved on. So it's not a strategic thing that's on their top 10 list they've been working on for months. They just done, move on. Now their vendors are more efficient, their security's gone up, and it's just become easier for them. With that, that's all the material I had. If there's any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And again, if there's a topic you think would be more interesting or something I didn't go into enough detail, did I not go technical enough? Did I go too technical? Feel free to let me know, and we'll take it under advisement for the next webinar. This is the awkward bit. I will wait for approximately 2 minutes, and if no questions start, then I will call it to a close. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join our webinar from Agilicus on NEX, Zero Trust, VPNs, alternatives, remote operations, and I look forward to engaging with you in the near future. Thanks very much, everybody, and bye-bye.